Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins. Welcome to Financial Lovemaking. I am here with Tia. How you doing today, Tia? And
That's all I get.
we're experimenting with a new intro, and because
Right.
you were saying that you wanted to kind of introduce yourself, and we're gonna figure that out. So I figured we just talk to people and let them know like what we're
Yeah.
working through. So you tell me how you would introduce yourself if you were to tell people what you do.
I would say lifestyle expert and licensed therapist. But I also like pop culture expert. But really,
Ah,
it's lifestyle.
pop
Yeah.
culture expert. Okay, and you
Yeah.
are a licensed therapist. You did go and you actually went to school at Columbia for a while to get
For a while.
for a while.
No. See,
What?
this is what happens with men, ladies. They mess up your story. I
How am
went
I
to
messing up your story?
Columbia
For
for
a while. It was like
journalism.
two
I went
years, right?
I went to Columbia for journalism.
Oh, you did journalism at Columbia too.
I have a master's of journalism from Columbia University. I had that before we met. And then
Oh,
I went back to New York University, NYU. And
oh, that's right. You know
see,
what? No. You know what I thought it was? I thought that you had gone to Columbia for to do counseling or to study therapy. I didn't know that. So you got Columbia and NYU on your resume?
boom, boom.
Dang, that's bad.
And of
That's
course,
bad.
I can never forget Howard University. That was my
Yes.
undergraduate degree, shaped me in so many ways. And one of my proudest accomplishments was matriculating through that school.
Absolutely. I wish I could have gone to Howard. I didn't have the grades. And I got when I finished my PhD, I applied for a job at Howard, and I think they took so long to respond to the freaking application, man. I was like, I want to teach here. I want to be in an HBCU, but nobody responded. So, and then when I became all radical and stuff, didn't nobody want to.
Wow.
There were no HBCUs wanted to
You
work
are
with
an
me.
honorary part of the Bison community because we are connected. Bison
I
is our alma mater. It's
I
our mascot, rather.
I love Howard University, and just so you know, I am also I forgot what they call it. Kind of an unofficial alum of Clark Atlanta University. So I
Okay.
adopted that HBCU, so I go to their
Okay.
alumni meetings. I make donations. I do all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest things that you just said people skip over. You make donations. You know, we always talk about finances and supporting our schools are so important. It's so important. I did a scholarship in honor of my mom to Howard University a couple of years back, like maybe 2 or 3 years. And I used crowdfunding to get more money up. Like, a lot of times we think, oh, we have to come out of pocket. I contributed about $1,000. And then I asked my friends, and I think the scholarship ended up being about $4,000, which can make a big difference in someone's life. So
Oh
I
yeah.
encourage people to do like you're doing, boys. Give back to our schools. Make sure, like, give and small things. You can sponsor someone's books for the semester. It does not have to be, like this huge, thousands of dollars that you're giving, but it's important.
Well,
Okay, I'm off the
you
soapbox.
no, you've inspired me. Stay on the soapbox. We need more soap in our community. When it comes to stuff like that, I mean, I think it's real. I think it's important. I think that we have to support our institutions, and I respect you for that. So you were asking me, or you were telling me, I guess, about this letter that was written by Ludacris's. Well, I don't want to say baby mama, but
Right. So,
Ludacris's baby
so
mama.
an ex special friend of Ludacris, we were talking about Atlanta, and they're down in Atlanta. Her name is
Special friend.
I'll call special because they both admit they weren't in an exclusive relationship, right?
Oh,
So
so a woman that he was having sex with, and they like a
that sounds like
what
almost as
what some
crass.
people call it a cut buddy or something like that. Isn't that?
Oh Lord, Dr. Watkins, we don't use language like that, right? But this is
Yeah, right.
they had a friendship, and this is according to Tamika Fuller. They maintained a friendship over years, and while he was on break from his now wife, they were intimate and they had a daughter. Now, recently, Tamika Fuller has come forward, basically saying how unfair she thinks it is that Ludacris was able to get full custody of their daughter. And she did a letter on MadameNoir.com that a lot of people were talking about. And in the letter, she basically said that it's male privilege coupled with financial privilege that made her lose a daughter or custody of a daughter that she was raising for a year, and that very much Ludacris had nothing to do with until it was time for child support, right? So once she decided to advocate for more money, she said his whole stance became way more aggressive on having full custody. And in her letter, she says that she feels the court sided with him just because he was famous and rich. And she does share some of her backstory, which includes she had a daughter, another daughter, when she was a teenager. And for many years, that daughter was raised by extended family. In the letter, she says that, this doesn't mean that she was a bad mother. It's just that she had a daughter young, and that, the village helped raise that daughter, and she still has a very proactive role in that daughter's life. She also said, though she didn't have a thriving career, she was able to sustain herself, and that, again, they used the fact that she wasn't well to do against her. Now, many people will argue that she lost the baby, her daughter, full custody, because she was being greedy. You have a baby with a man who says that he didn't want to have a child with you, and she says that he was very clear on that. And now you want the financial privilege that accompanies, to some, with being an active, participating co-parent, when this wasn't the agreement that he wanted from the jump. So she's very hurt. Ludacris and his new wife are now full-time parents of their daughter together, Tamika Fuller and Ludacris's daughter together. And Tamika has vowed to continue to advocate to get custody back, minimally joint custody of her daughter, who she says, again, breastfed, raised for a year solo for the most part. She says that Ludacris didn't see the daughter, and now they're separated. So it's very interesting. I think money played a very big role in this. And it's really sad to see how, a decision that you make can really backfire. One of the biggest things, when we talk about this whole baby mama phenomenon, and I want to use my words carefully, it's very important to enter parenthood as a collective decision. Because once that doesn't happen, it's very hard for people to exemplify mature behavior in terms of what's best for the child once the child is here. Because people become very bitter and hurt. And I can say, just looking at the big picture, it seems that both of them acted selfishly. She decided to have a child, even though the co-parent said that they did not want to be a co-parent. And then, even though she was given a lump sum of money, she advocated for more. And I think at that point, you have to decide what is more important. Having a certain amount of money per month because I think I deserve it or the child deserves it, or now trying to mend a relationship with someone who didn't want to be a co-parent with me. And I think it's a very difficult choice. Some people will say, you're entitled to that 17% or whatever percentage the state says because, he is a man of means. But other people will say, maturity-wise, big picture-wise, having a parent who wants to interact with that child and can work with you collectively is the most important thing. What do you think, boys?
Well, I'm going to read some of her letter here, and which is just so well written. It almost makes you wonder who wrote it. But if she wrote this, she is an absolutely incredibly articulate person. She says the psychological manipulation began immediately. He broke down in tears when I told him that I wanted to keep our baby, and he begged me to abort the child, whose heartbeat was developing in rhythm with my own. He told me that it would destroy his career and his image. And I guess being a rapper with an out of wedlock child is just so unheard of that it would just shock his fans, right? Um, I contemplated heavily on terminating my pregnancy. I don't believe in forced parenthood or trapping anyone into raising an unwanted child. However, when I visited the clinic and heard my daughter's heartbeat in the ultrasound, I knew I couldn't go through with it. He promised me the world, trips on his private jet, and other perks of the rich and famous if I was just to have an abortion. He made me feel that if I was ruining us. It was as if he believed that our friendship should take precedence over the life growing inside me. And when he realized that it couldn't, my real heart or real nightmare began. So this is interesting. And I've read a big chunk of this letter, and you know what I really see here is just the unspoken pain that comes from all this baby mamaism that we have in our society, baby mama, baby daddyism. You know, it baffles me. It's like, how can two people be so connected, so deeply rooted with one another, when it's time to conceive a child, but become two separate pieces, so disconnected when the child is born. I
Because
don't.
you're not thinking about conceiving a child, you're thinking about having sex. And I
Right,
think you can do
right,
exactly what you said. When you're
right.
coupling with someone, and I know that that's a very technical term, understand that a child can come of that union. Sorry to interrupt. Go
No, no,
ahead.
no. That's okay. You always interrupt. You don't respect me. I'm playing. I'm playing. No, but you know what? I just think that it's hurtful. I mean, people don't understand that you're traumatizing kids when you turn them into little pieces of a tug of war. You
Hmm.
know, I and I just I told my girls, like, look, I'm not going to judge how you decide to conceive children, because I believe that the job of the mother is the most important job in the world. I believe that sex is the foundation of human life, so therefore sex and love are among the most powerful forces in the universe, and we can't resist it all as much as we want. We can't outsmart God and Mother Nature. These processes have been in our DNA since the
Hmm.
beginning of time, since the beginning of human beings, as creatures. And so it's gonna happen. You're gonna fall in love. You're gonna become attracted to other people. You're gonna act on that at some point. I don't care who you are, but there has to be some sort of decision making there. I tell my girls, you don't want to plan. Never start the process putting yourself at extreme risk of becoming a baby's mama. Every time you give that man your phone number and you decide you're just gonna mess around and dabble, understand you are dabbling with Mother Nature's version of crack cocaine. Nobody dabbles with crack and heroin. You don't do it unless you're stupid. Then you become an addict. Well, you shouldn't dabble with love either, because
Absolutely.
when you dabble and you're like, "Oh, we're not serious. We're just fucking. We're just doing whatever." No, I'm sorry. I said the word fucking because everybody at some point done did some fucking. And if you ain't done none in your life, then whatever. Then you obviously are too not grown enough to be part of this conversation. The fact is that if you're just thinking about sex, the sex is that is the thing that's designed to lure you in. That's how you get sucked into these crazy, complex, ugly situations that end up hurting other people. Namely, that little child who comes into the world and doesn't understand why everybody's fighting before they even get here. A child should be born in a cradle of love, not in a cradle of hate and animosity and disdain and poison and all these things. So I don't know what's going on in terms of Ludacris's personal life. I don't know why he wanted this baby, but one day that girl's gonna grow up and she's gonna find out. Wait a minute, my daddy begged my mama to abort me. My father wanted to murder me. My father wanted me dead. He doesn't even want me here. I don't. That's how I'd feel. I'd be like, wait a minute, you begged her to kill me before I even had a chance to live? That would infuriate me. I think that when she goes back and she reads about all this custody back and forth and all this stuff and hears both sides of the story, I think there's going to be some animosity there. Chickens always come home to roost.
Yeah.
So my I guess my point here is that I just think it's ugly. I mean, it just really, I feel bad for both of them. I feel worse based on what I'm reading. I feel a little bit worse for the mother because I understand what she's saying. Sometimes, some rich and powerful people go into family court. Family court, by the way, is incredibly corrupt. There's people should watch the Dr. Drew documentary, Divorce Corp. CORP. Have you seen it?
No.
You gotta watch it. You have to watch it because
No.
Dr. Drew literally, I guess because one of his friends was screwed in divorce court, he did this whole documentary about how corrupt divorce court can be and how you can have situations like the one with Usher and Tamika, where Usher's attorney had given money to the campaign of the judge who was making a decision about custody, and he happened to rule in favor of that attorney. Well, it happens all the time, all throughout the country. So what she's saying about the rich and powerful having an advantage in family court, a lot of that is very, very real. I don't doubt a thing that she's saying here.
I don't think that there's privilege. And I think it's interesting because normally you talk about the privilege that the mother has in court. But you're right, money trumps all of those things. But I also want to talk about the big umbrella picture of trauma. And so as traumatizing as it is for the mom, it's also traumatizing, I think, for the guys. And this is something that we talk about frequently because a dream is lost for both parties. And I don't devalue his dream any more or less than hers, right? So he wanted to have children inside of either wedlock or in a committed relationship. So the time to really make healthy decisions, number one, when it's time to use that condom. And number two, once the decision has been made that the woman is moving forward, both parties, because ultimately it is her decision, both parties have to to act with maturity. And I can't stress that enough. And there are three things that I want to say really quickly about this. Number one, focus on child-centered parenting. And I think that's so much like what you said. Like, this baby is growing up, and because you're fighting, she doesn't get an opportunity to spend time with her mother. And I think that that is as valuable as not getting to spend time with your father, because it's a lot of times a reverse situation. However, I'll say in this nurturing phase, it's a little bit more important because the mom usually is the nurturer. Now she's with a stepmom most of her time, or a nanny, and her stepmom happens to be pregnant with their first child. So there's a lot of different dynamics going on. And in this letter, Tamika says that she sees the baby, I think, every weekend or every other weekend. So she's not getting to have that valuable bonding time. And that doesn't mean that her stepmother and her father don't care for her, but there is something about the bond between the moms. So I encourage both of them to be child-centered in their decision. The second thing I would say is definitely, to aim to co-parent actively. And that means regardless of what the judge says in terms of custody, you have to reach a point where you can say the kid needs to see both of us daily. Both need to be involved in the decision-making process. And we both need to have input in day-to-day life, calling, seeing each other. All of those things are important for the kid. And the last thing I would say is forgiveness. She has to forgive him for not choosing her, for not choosing to move forward with their family, because let's say there's some real hurt there. And he has to forgive her for making a decision to start a family that he didn't want. And that's the real deal. So it's a lot of work that both of the parents have to do. And I hope that not just this couple, because now they are forever a couple, all couples think about how much responsibility comes from making that decision to say, I'm going to have a baby.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more. I think that I can tell you it really hurts me and it hurts the child. When the child doesn't get to spend a decent amount of quality time with their father. It hurts me to see that. And people who think that the kids don't need their father are stupid and they're ridiculous and they're crazy. Because kids do suffer when their fathers are not around. But to see a child lose her mother, I'll have to admit that hurts me probably more.
Especially a baby.
Because right, a baby and the mother. I mean, there's nothing worse you can do to a mother than to take her child away. I mean, there is a deep connection between mother and child that. To the point where a lot of mothers would rather die than lose their children. So I actually feel bad for her. I mean, if she's not able to get a decent amount of time with her child, and she's got this other woman raising her newborn baby who's not even 1.5 years old
Yeah,
yet,
2.5 years.
I would
That's a
be.
big deal.
I mean, I would. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what I would do. I mean, in her situation. I mean, that that's enough to send somebody off the edge. I'll just say that. So I just think you got to understand, like, whatever Ludacris was doing when he did this and fought for custody. I mean, you got to realize, man, you are playing with fire when you do this. You can't take your baby away from her mother. I don't care how mad you are. You
And,
know,
and so, and I'll say, right. So a lot of times when you get in court, it's tit for tat. It's money for custody. And that's when the maturity really has to come in. I think both of them have to come to a point where they say, what is best for the baby? And women need to be mindful. And this is not just for rich guys, but for people who have resources in general. Because if you have access to a great attorney, you can switch this dynamic of perceived power very easily. The baby needs to come first. As long as you're getting financial support that is responsible and respectable, I think you can't focus on fighting for the dollars. You really want to fight for the relationship that the child has with their dad or their mom, and the relationship that you guys have together.
absolutely. I don't think there's anything else to say on that. I just
Boom.
right there you go. Boom, boom, boom. You nailed it. I'm just speechless on this, and I'm gonna read the rest of this letter, and I just wish them the best, and I wish the best for the baby, because I think that the baby has gotten a raw deal in all of this. So,
Absolutely.
all right, well, thank you, Tia. It was good talking to you again, girl.
As always, bye.
Bye bye.